Hi dear 12th, so I'm back with the another part of the chapter, the rat trap. So far we have studied that how the rat trap seller was surviving himself by begging and by making rat trap, which in fact he used to make by begging the raw material from farms and factories. One day he in fact got into trouble when he took shelter at a crofter's home. The crofter was a hospitable person, so that was the reason he allowed him to have delicious food to stay at his home. And of course, he showed his 30 kroners as well, which he had earned by selling the milk product of his cow. It brought the paddler into temptation, and that was the reason the next morning when he departed from Crofter, he came back, he broke the glass of the window where the bag was hung, and then he stole 30 kroner. So it was a big inhospitable work, ingratitude work which he did. But after that, he got trapped in a jungle and he thought that now he had allowed himself to be befooled by the bait of 30 kroner. But gradually, eventually, he heard a thumping sound which was coming from a nearby factory. He mustered his courage, reached that factory, and took permission for staying there. He was granted as well. After some time, the owner of the factory came, the factory named Ramzo Iron Mill. He came, he was a sincere industrialist, wanted to export the best quality of iron in the market. When he came, he noticed a stranger, sleeping there. He went to him and he recognized him as his old acquainted person, Niels Olf, whose real name was Captain von Stelle. He in fact could not endure his old regimental comrade in such filthy condition, and that is why he in fact asked him, to go along with him at his home to have Christmas pleasure. Despite all the effort, he could not develop any gateway for the paddler to accompany him, and eventually he had to give up and he went back. But when he was going back, at that time he laughed, and this laughter was very much known and meaningful for the head blacksmith. He knew that eventually the iron master had not given up. He would certainly to do something else. So that's what we had covered in first two videos. Now let's go ahead. So see, it was no more than half an hour before they heard the sound of a carriage wheels outside the forge. Alright, one cart came there and new guests came in. But this time it was not the iron master, he had sent his daughter. Alright, so this is what happened. Iron master sent his daughter, to invite the paddler at his home. Apparently, clearly hoping that she would have better pass of persuasion than he himself. Already thought that his daughter has more abilities of convincing than he has. This is the reason he sent her. He entered followed by a valet here coat driver, carrying on his arms a big fur coat. She brought a big fur coat along with her. She was not at all pretty. She was not very charming, very beautiful, but she modest and quite shy. And she had modest appearance, all right, average, mediocre appearance, and she seemed to be a shy natured lady. In the forge for blacksmith workshop, everything was just as it had been earlier in the evening. The master blacksmith and his apprentice still sat on their bench, and iron and charcoal still glowed shine in the furnace. Alright, the stranger had, who was stranger? That paddler stretched himself. Now he had completely stretched himself out on the floor and lay with a piece of pig iron. So he had made arrangement of a pillow for him by using a big piece of raw iron under his head, and his hat pulled down over his eyes. Alright, and how in fact he was avoiding the light of furnace by covering his eyes with his hat. As soon as the young girl caught sight of him, she sighted him. She went up and lifted his hat. The man was evidently clearly used to sleeping. He was addicted to sleeping with one eye open. Alright, so he had habit of sleeping with one eye open, And as soon as he saw that there was a lady almost peeping over his face, what he did? He jumped up abruptly, and he jumped up immediately and seemed to be quite frightened. He got horrified. My God, what happened? From where this lady came almost over me. So the lady introduced herself. She said, "My name is Edla Wilmenson." Fine, said the young girl. "My father came home and said that you wanted to sleep here in the forest tonight, and then I asked permission to come and bring you home to us. Bring you home to us." So she introduced the purpose of coming there. Now she had come there to develop a gateway for bringing the peddler at their home. "I'm so sorry, Captain, that you are having such a hard time. And I'm very sorry. I'm very saddened you have such difficult time for yourself." Fine. She looked at him compassionately. And when she looked at Peddler, there was compassion. There was compassion, mercy in looking that with her heavy eyes. She had big eyes. Then she noticed that the man was afraid. She noticed the man was afraid, and then she thought something. What she mused? She mused, either he has stolen something or else he has escaped from jail. My God, I would say how she was bang on the target, and that's what the peddler had done. He had stolen something. What he had stolen? 30 kroners. So it proves that Edla Wilmenson was keen, observator. She was a keen observator, and this was the reason what she observed. That was absolutely correct. She observed that man had stolen something, and that's what he had done. She thought and added quickly, "You may be sure, Captain, that you will be allowed to leave us just as freely as you came. Like, we won't hamper your freedom. Once you get tired with our company, you can go off. We won't hamper, we won't intervene your privacy, your freedom. Once you wish to go, you can. We would not create any discrepancy in your freedom. Only please stay with us over Christmas Eve. Please spend your Christmas time with us." That's what she pleaded. She said this in such a friendly manner that the rat trap peddler must have felt confidence. And her tone was so friendly. It in fact empowered the confidence of rat trap peddler in her. And it's quite obvious, if a man asks someone to do something, second man hardly does. But when a woman is there, pleasant looking woman, nice speaking woman, asks something to do to a man forgets everything. Even the next moment, doomsday is there. The last day of the world is there. He has to follow the instructions of that man. Alright, you must have seen these kind of scenes, sights quite often on the road. If a man is fallen on the road, he has gone off his bike, hardly anyone steps to help. But if a woman falls, the entire market gathers there, to give helping hand. So, the way that lady had spoken, it in fact showed such compassion that it aroused the confidence of peddler in her. He thought that most probably he might not have, tolerate any difficulty at her home. Fine, so let's see. So what he said, "It would never have happened to me that you would bother me with yourself, miss." He said, "It never looked that my presence would disturb you at all, miss." He said, "I will come at once." And immediately he fell into that suggestion. That's what happened. Boys always fall into the suggestion of girls. Very poor. He accepted the fur coat which the valet handed him with a deep bow. He bent before him, welcoming him, greeting him, threw it over his racks, and he wore over his torn clothes and followed the young lady out to the carriage. Without grunting, the astonished, the surprised blacksmith so much as a glance. Even he did not give a single look to the head blacksmith. You can say it was his revenge because when he had asked, the peddler had asked for permission. You must have remembered, had blacksmith had given a haughty consent full of, proud. But this time he was completely shocked, flabbergasted, because the man whom he took so ordinarily turned out to be guest of his owner. So he was astonished, but the peddler even did not have a single look of him. So see, but while he was riding up to Manor House, he had evil forebodings, means bad omens, some bad intuitions. He got some bad intuition. So, what bad intuition? Where we have gone? Yes, here. He in fact mused, he thought within his heart, he said, why the devil did I take the fellow's money? Why I stole his 30 kroners? He thought, now I'm sitting in the trap and will never get out. He thought once again he was in a trap. The next day was Christmas Eve, and when the ironmaster came into the dining room for breakfast, he perhaps thought with satisfaction of his old regimental comrade, whom he had run across me meet by chance so unexpectedly. He was quite satisfied thinking that how, he was gonna make a memorable day for his old comrade, regimental comrade, means friend of army, and he was quite pleased that now he would bring some changes in his critical condition. Of course, he had found him in a very hard carnal condition. Carnal means physical condition, but he was quite sure that he would, bring some changes. First of all, we must see to it that he gets a little flesh on his bone. To get flesh on his bone, will there be a coating of flesh on the body of Pantler? No, of course, no coating would be there. Flesh on bone means we must feed him something to get energized, alright, to get somewhat okay with his weak carnal condition. What is carnal? Physical. He said to his daughter, who was busy at the table, she was laying the table, and then we must see that he gets something else to do than to run around the country selling rat trap. And then we must arrange a decent profession for him in place of selling rat trap, wandering in the lane. We must arrange a decent, business for him. It's clear, and it's quite, weird that things have gone downhill with him as badly as that. Adela Wilkinson said, it seemed quite weird that he has undergone such great downfall. Said the daughter, last night I did not think there was anything about him to show that he had once been an educated man. See, this is another very important point about the characteristic of Adela Wilkinson. There comes a question asking us how Adela Wilkinson is more, observatory than her father. So this is the second point. First was when she realized that he had stolen something. Second, see, she in fact immediately realized that the man did not seem to be an educated man. Try to understand. Poverty might snatch wealth, but it would surely not snatch someone's manner. If one becomes poor, does not mean one would completely forget his manners as well. So this was the reason Adela Wilkinson, at her first sight realized the man in fact was hardly educated. Army, people are way educated than our imagination. So that was the reason she in fact said the same, and how again she was bang on the target. This is called to hit bull's eye. She hit bull's eye once again with her keen observation. So see, she was very keen observant. This is to be remembered. She was very keen observant. You must have patience, my little girl, said the father. As soon as he gets clean and dressed up, you will see something different. Let him bathe, let him change his clothes, and then you would find something different. There would be great discrepancy, alright, in his way. Last night he was naturally embarrassed. Why he was embarrassed? Because of his poor clothes. The tramp manners will fall away will shatter from his with the tramp clothes. Let him change his clothes, that will change his tramp manners as well. Just as he said this, the door opened and the stranger entered. Yes, now he was truly clean and well dressed. Alright, the valet had bathed him, cut his hair, and shaved him. Moreover, he was dressed in a good looking suit of clothes which belonged to the iron master. So now he seemed to be a gentleman. Alright, he wore a white shirt and a starch collar and old shoes, big size shoes. So now he in fact had dressed up completely like a gentleman. But see, the biggest surprise. But although his guest was now so well groomed, the iron master did not seem pleased. He looked at him with puckered, means wrinkled brow, and it was easy to understand that when he had seen the strange fellow in the uncertain reflection from the furnace, he might have made a mistake. So try and understand. Now it was sure last night when the reflection of furnace was not very bright, darkness was there, he made mistake about the identity of Paddler. So of course he mistook his identity. He took him as his old comrade, but now in broad daylight there wasn't any as such chance to be befooled, to be mistaken with his real identity. So see, this is called irony. When he was dirty, he was, in worn out clothes, he was given such fine reception by Iron Master, but now he was bathed, worn clean clothes, nicely dressed up. Iron Master did not like it. This is what is called irony. It was impossible to mistake him for old acquaintance. No scope was there of mistaken identity at all. What does this mean? He thundered, he shouted. The stranger made no attempt to dissimulate, to undeceive him. Alright, to deceive him. Now he did not try to deceive him anymore. He had realized that now in fact truth had befallen. He saw at once that the splendor and glory of good time had come to an end. That was over. He said, "It is not my fault, sir." He said, "I never pretended, made excuse to be anything but only a poor trader." He said, "I always tried to project myself, to exhibit myself, a poor trader, and I pleaded, I requested and begged to be allowed to stay in the fort, but no harm has been done. But what I have done wrong to you, at worst, I can put on my rags again and go away. That's what I can do. I can wear my old torn clothes and I can go back." "Well," said the iron master, hesitating a little, he said, "it was not quite honest either." Even it was not quite, like how it was not honest, if you did not, you did not tell your real identity. At least you could have told who you are. If you did not lie, but you did not accept the truth also, that you were someone else. Alright, so even this is not honest from your part. You must admit that. You must admit that you were someone else. And I should not be surprised if the sheriff, if the city police officer would like to have something to say in this matter. Alright, open threat, he said. Like indirectly he was saying that you would be handed over to police and he would interrogate. The tramp took a step forward and struck the table with his fist, and he hit the table with his punch. He said, "Now I am going to tell you, Mr. Iron Master, how things are." He said, "This whole world is nothing but a big rat trap. All the good things that are offered to you are nothing but cheese ends and bits of pork. Set out to drag a poor fellow into trouble, and if the sheriff comes now and locks me up for this, then you, Mr. Iron Master, must remember that a day may come when you yourself may want to get a big piece of pork, and then you will get caught in that trap. Alright, so what he did, he in fact revealed his own ideology of world being a rat trap. He in fact, let me summarize what is in this paragraph. He said that if I have been caught today because of, cheese pieces and pork means temptation, the same might take place one day with you also. The same will happen with you also. If I have been trapped today, so you might be tomorrow. So that's what he in fact tried to bring home to him, that it was a case of mere temptation, and it happens with everyone because there are so many bait, so many lucrative things in the world which lure us, entice us. So tomorrow, in fact, the same thing might take place with Iron Master also. And when Iron Master heard this ideology, strange ideology of the paddler, what happened? It in fact got him laughed. The Iron Master began to laugh. He said, "That was not so badly said. My good fellow, perhaps we should let the sheriff alone on Christmas Eve. Let's allow him, to be solitary on Christmas evening. But now, get out of here as fast as you can. Leave this place immediately." But just as the man was opening the door to retreat himself, the daughter said, "I think he ought to stay with us today. I don't want him to go." And with that, she went and closed the door. And she closed the door, and father, of course, he was annoyed. He said, "What in the world are you doing?" Said the father. He said, "What is this? What the bullshit you are doing? Why have you closed the door?" The daughter stood there quite embarrassed. Why she was embarrassed? Because she went against the decision of father. Father had ordered him to leave the place, but she closed it, and this was the reason she was embarrassed and hardly knew what to answer. That morning, and what was the reason of closing the door? That morning, she had felt so happy when she thought how homelike and Christmassy she was going to make things for a poor hungry earth. This was the reason. Adela Wilkinson had fostered some sublime, thought for the paddler. She intended to impart him something wonderful on that Christmas Eve. She wanted, him to feel homelike, like being at his own home. And Christmassy means enjoy the cheer of Christmas. That was her intention to impart him. But when suddenly she found herself in the condition where her good, sublime, noble thought were gonna be shattered, she could not allow herself to go again. Alright, and this was the reason she closed the door, but of course, this was an action against the will of her father. She could not get away from the idea all at once, and she could not part herself, from her noble ideas of imparting him Christmas joy. And that was why she had interceded, advocated, supported for the vagabond, that is street urchin. She said, "I am thinking of this stranger here," said the young girl. "He walks and walks the whole year long, and there is probably not a single place in the whole country where he is welcome and can feel at home." She said, "Sir, father, nothing is there. No place is there where he can enjoy, the mirth of Christmas. Wherever he turns, he is chased away. He is pushed off. Always he is afraid of being arrested and cross-examined. He has terror of being interrogated and handcuffed by the police. So I should like to have him enjoy our day of peace with us here. Just one in the whole year." She tried to comprehend her father. He said, "Let's understand what we are gonna do for him. We are gonna impart him happiness of one day out of whole year. So let me allow to do the same." The Iron Master mumbled something in his beard. He whispered something in his beard. He was quite, annoyed at this gesture of his daughter. So he spoke something inaudible in his beard. He could not bring himself to oppose. What he spoke, that was inaudible. What he must have spoken, he must have पकलिया कहीं पागल बुद्धि मारे खा लेंगे तो मन में आता करती रहती है बिल्कुल पागल कहीं की. So he must have spoken something like that. Alright, this is my own observation, alright, my own fancy. Who can see about it? Alright, so it was all a mistake, of course. Adla Wilmison said, yes, it was a mistake. She continued, but anyway, I don't think we ought to chase away a human being whom we have asked to come here. If we have invited a person, we cannot ask him to go. It's very ill mannered. And to whom we have promised Christmas cheer. On the top of that, a person whom we have promised to impart Christmas happiness, and then suddenly we ask him to go. It's of course ill mannered. Fine. So, what father said, he said, you to preach worse than a parson. Your preaching, your sermons are worse than a priest. Alright. Said Darren Master, I only hope you won't have to regret this. Later, you should not, you should not regret on this. The young girl took the stranger by the hand, led him to the table, and what she said, now sit down and eat. She said, for she could see that her father had given in, had permitted. She understood that it was an indirect permission of her father. Alright, so see the man. So in fact, the video has gone too long. I believe that we must keep this much. The leftover part of the video would be covered, next time. So with this, let me bid adieu to you, and I would say you are very great, and so am I.